This is Jesús, Manuel, Mena, Garza. I hope you're having a really good day. In this video, I talk about the new Panasonic LUMIX S1 and LUMIX S1R. I did a previous video. It was very short. It was essentially just a quick introduction. If you want more information on the new LUMIX S1 and S1R, there's countless videos currently from basically the representatives from Panasonic. They get them a camera because they know they're going to say positive things, and of course at the Panasonic website. But this is my unbiased opinion. I do not own a Panasonic S1 or S1R. I wish I owned the S1R personally. It's a very nice camera. Their price points are a little bit out of my budget. The S1 is about $2,500 and the S1R is approaching $4,000, getting close to 4,000 bucks. So they're expensive cameras, and that's not even including the lens. A good lens, and of course if you buy a good camera, what do you want? Do you want a cheap lens? No, you want a good lens. So you want a good lens, and those good lenses are usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 bucks, okay? You can get the basic standard lens typically for, anywhere between 500 and 800 bucks for this type of camera. And the zoom lenses, if you buy, certain zoom lenses, are going to cost close to 2,000 bucks. So it's an expensive proposition if you want to buy this camera. You have to buy the camera, you have to buy the new lenses, and you're an early adopter of this new system. Okay, there's going to be a change. There's going to be S1RS or S1R2 and all these different incarnations in about a year or two, and they're going to change. It's going to be bigger and better and more fabulous. It's probably going to shoot 8K and stuff like that. This one currently shoots 8K. The two cameras 8K at I think 60p, which is pretty good. So who's the market for that camera? Okay, I'm going to talk about who's the market for this camera, the S1 or the S1R. It's the same market as my camera, the G85 and the GH5 and the GH5S and the G9. It's videographers. They say they can take good pictures. I think the S1R can take probably fabulous pictures. But typically most of these cameras are designed to shoot video. That's their main purpose in life. That's why they were built by Panasonic. They're primarily built for videographers. They can shoot 4K, and they do stunning 4K. If you went out in the marketplace and looked up independent videographers, and you'd find out very quickly that a lot of them use Panasonic LUMIX GH5s and GH5Ss. They're fabulous cameras. You can add a lot of stuff to them. You can add lights, you can add monitors, you can fabulous lenses and different combinations of microphones and such. Great cameras. I really enjoy using my camera. So why go from a small sensor, micro four thirds, GH5, GH5S, G9, G85, blah, 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 all those little Panasonic cameras and such like that. Sony's make small sensor cameras too. To a bigger sensor, significantly bigger sensor, full frame, 35 millimeter. The two main reasons are you want more bigger pixel size. To cram all those sensors into a small, all those pixel sites into a small sensor requires that they be small. Again, they have to be smaller on a smaller sensor. Bigger photo sites on a bigger sensor, okay? So it's all about photo sites. Those photo sites are bigger. They allow you to shoot in low light because they gather more light, okay? So they're very good in low light situations, typically, okay? Another benefit of a larger sensor is more control over depth of field. If you want shallow depth of field, if you want that product, person, or piece of infrastructure to be photographed with the background out of focus, you can do that with a larger sensor. It's not necessarily as easy with a smaller sensor. It's just inherent in the design, the optics, and of that type of camera. Doesn't mean it's going to be horrible, with the micro four thirds, but it's better with a larger full frame sensor, okay? So what are the prices of these units again? $2,500 approximately for the S1, and the one I like, the S1R, is going for $3,700. That's without a lens, okay? If you want a lens, it's going to cost you more money. And typically, if you buy a good camera, you want better lenses. So those lenses are going to cost $800, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. It's going to cost you money, okay? So my camera, my G85, my modest G85, which I shoot my 4K videos with on YouTube, cost me less than $1,000 with kit lens, and it works for me. It's good enough for YouTube. At this time, YouTube, you can upload 4K, and I upload 4K via my G85. So I'm happy with it. Another negative of a full frame camera is that they're heavier, and the lenses are significantly heavier. Even though you might get smaller with the DSLR, the old DSLRs as compared to mirrorless, it gets a little bit smaller. Those lenses are still the same size, and they are big. Big lenses, okay? So you're lugging around all these lenses if you're a professional photographer. That's why you notice that all these rustic, rugged photographers, be they men or women, carry a large backpack of stuff, and you see them climbing up the mountain, and they're taking pictures of, infrastructure or the landscape, or trekking to different countries and shooting people and their, different cultures. They have to take a lot of stuff. And typically it's not just one person, it's usually 2 or 3 people, because you're taking a lot of stuff. It's heavy. It gets tiring. So, but if you're being paid to go to Samoa to photograph Samoans doing their regional dances and shooting the customer, it's a professional gig. You drag all that stuff on and you shoot it. You pull out the appropriate lens and you take the video and you shoot it, and maybe even add a little bit of light. It's a professional situation. The S1R and the S1 are professional cameras. They're very rugged, beautifully built. They have magnesium alloy bodies, etc., etc. That's what usually delineates a professional camera. Is the body. It's all, all metal. It's not like my Lumix G85. Only one portion of it is metal in the back. Everything else is pretty much plastic. Okay. So they're very rugged. You can toss them around. You might even accidentally drop it on a surface, and it should come back and be able to work. I'm not recommending you drop your camera. I've been a photographer since 1963 was my first year I took a photograph, and I've never dropped a camera. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm very careful with my equipment because when you grow up poor, you take care of stuff. When you grow up rich, if it breaks, I buy a new one. But I was never that way. I can never buy a new one. If you're in a studio or you have a client, typically you're getting paid, again, to take these photographs. You're getting money. So your camera, one of the benefits of that is that it can be a tax write-off. The lights can be a tax write-off. The various microphones you use in your studio and the stands and all that stuff can be written off on your taxes. Okay, that's a benefit of being a professional photographer. And you're taking so many pictures with your camera that after about 2 years you replace it with the latest incarnation. You get rid of it, you sell it cheap, and you've got a new camera. Okay, so this is for those photographers, the S1 and S1R. It's for photographers that use them a lot. They want a sturdy camera that they can use a lot, and it won't break down and cause you issues. So when you have this camera, you don't have to baby it as much as a consumer camera. This camera, will take fabulous photographs for your, projects. My camera will take good photographs. It's good enough for a website. It's good enough to make an 8x10 or 16x20. But anything bigger and more detailed and finer, you want a professional camera. When I was in my studio in Silicon Valley, decades ago, I'm now again retired. I had clients ranging from Intel, all the high-tech companies, and all the different events going on in Silicon Valley. I photographed, did portraits in my studio and in the field. I shot them with a Hasselblad, okay? They came out very, very, very detailed because my negative was 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 inches, 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. Other people would photograph events with a 35 millimeter. It's a smaller sensor, the sensor that's in the new cameras. This camera I'm talking about that size. So the bigger the sensor, the bigger the quality. The bigger the film format, the better the quality, okay? That's why, again, Ansel Adams shot an 8 by 10. He knew what he was doing. He shot with 8 by 10. He didn't shoot with 35 millimeter. He didn't shoot with a Minox 8 millimeter. He shot large film. So one of the benefits of this camera, one of the things I really like about this new camera, it'll not take only one photograph. You can actually have it take several photographs and then press a button and it'll merge all these photographs. In the S1, you get an image that's under 100, you know. When I'm traveling about the country and playing tourist, and I only want to share my photographs with my family and my friends, I just shoot it with a smartphone. And I send it to them and they can see that I'm in Mexico or that I'm in, on the East Coast or West Coast or in the mountains. That's the easy way to take a good photograph. And with the current crop of smartphones, you can take a very, very good photograph. YouTube quality photography. The reason to buy a camera with interchangeable lenses is that it offers you much more options. Typically, on a smartphone, you don't have a super telephoto lens to shoot that bird sitting on a pole across the street, okay? That eagle majestically perched on that pole or pine tree, okay? You can't do that with a smartphone. It's very difficult. Unless they're, a few feet away from you, it's not going to come out very good, okay? Also, if you shoot a landscape and you want that beautiful wide landscape and also a lot of detail because, it has a lot of depth and color in the image, that sensor on a good mirrorless camera will capture all that detail, all that subtle detail, and store it in a raw file that you could later, coax out and make absolutely fabulous prints or, for your website or for different clients. With a smartphone, you can't do it as readily. It'll take a good picture, but you can't coax out a lot of stuff out of it. It's basically like you just buy, it's a simple, output of the camera. It gives you a JPEG. I don't know if any smartphones do RAW now. Are there any cameras that do RAW? I don't know. So how do you take pictures? What do you like to photograph? Do you like to photograph, you like to travel around the United States, around the world and shoot landscapes? Different people, different cultures. Do you just photograph the family, the children, the parents, the grandparents like me? Do you just travel and do that? Is that all you do? So you have to figure out, is this camera going to serve my needs? Am I willing to lug this heavy camera with me to take pictures? Most of us say, I'm leaving that camera at home. I'm only using it for special events. If you're a commercial photographer, you're going to take your good equipment everywhere you go because you want to make your client super happy. You want your client to go, these are fabulous photographs. When you're shooting for yourself, it's often just a compromise. You want something you can stick in your pocket or your purse or your bag, and you're just walking around, you take a picture. Snap, snap, snap. Snap, snap, snap. And you can easily just on your phone send it to whoever you want and store them in the cloud. It's easy. It's super easy. Once you get into mirrorless and various digital, interchangeable lens cameras, it becomes more difficult. You have to plan your adventures out there. You have to get out of your backpack. You have to pull out this camera. You have to connect the lens. You have to set the aperture if you're a good photographer, and you set your shutter speed and you check your ISO, ASA, and you're set. And you might even add some neutral density filters or something like that. So there's a lot of things that you want to do. And if you're shooting video, you have to add a microphone and connect it to the cable, maybe use your headphones. So it's a much more involved process. But you're invested in that process. You want to produce fabulous photographs that are marketable for a client, for my super fantastic YouTube channel. Again, it's how much do you want to spend, carrying all this stuff around? When I travel, I typically just pull out my smartphone and take a couple snapshots. If I know it's going to be on YouTube and I want to photograph my hike or that recreational vehicle that I'm photographing or that bit of infrastructure, I take my LUMIX G85. It's not too heavy. And with the kit lens and with the microphone, it just weighs about 3 pounds. It's not that much. Compare that to this camera. If you got a LUMIX S1R plus a couple zoom lenses and a nice microphone, you're talking about close to, I estimate 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds. It gets heavy fast. And of course, every pound is exponential if you're hiking in or lugging it around. After a while you go, man, I wish I did have to carry that. A lot of us don't even want to carry on a tripod because it's too much weight. I'm not taking that tripod. I'm just going to do everything handheld because I don't want to lug that tripod around. So what type of photographer are you? Are you a landscape photographer? Are you a portrait photographer? Do you like to photograph decaying infrastructure? Do you like to do some travel photography? Do you travel a lot? Do you have a lot of money and you travel all over the place? Do you just want to photograph your family, the kids at the recital, your wife, your partner, your extended family and friends? Is that what you want to do? You can buy a $1,000, under $1,000, camera with a zoom lens that'll go zoom, super zoom. It's a small sensor, but it'll zoom super, and that's perfectly fine for most people to photograph, that child way over there playing the violin at the event, or your son playing football way over there at that, or a cheerleader, and it's perfectly fine. Sony makes like those kind of cameras. So does Pentax and other manufacturers. They make those super zoom, with built-in lens cameras. Those are perfectly fine for those situations. A lot of YouTubers use them too. So you have to decide if you can rationalize this camera. I can rationalize this camera because I like to take, landscapes. I'm a good landscape photographer. I'm not the greatest landscape photographer. I can use this for event photography. I can take portraits and people pictures, infrastructure pictures. That's what I'm known for, is people pictures, infrastructure pictures, and event photography. So this will be a fabulous camera. Just imagine the detail. Just imagine when I'm interviewing somebody and I just get that shallow depth of field. I'm at, f2.8, it's 80 millimeters, and I have them, cropped like this, and it's beautiful with throwing some studio lights, and man, it's going to come out nice. That's going to come out really, really nice. And these better cameras have, an expanded gamma range, an expanded, range of tones they can pick up. So they're better cameras. Your smartphone and other cameras, have this kind of range. These cameras have gigantic, what they can, put in their files. Yes, I want this camera. I would love to have this camera, but can I rationalize the expense at this time? I'm retired, I'm not gonna, have all kinds of clients. I move too much. Every few years, my wife and I move, and it's hard to build a client base if you're always on the move. And I'm no longer motivated by, serving clients. I like to serve my own needs and just do things that are fun for me, like this YouTube channel. I just want to thank you for checking out this video. My name is Jesús Manuel Mena Garza. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I would greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm readily available. Gracias. Adios. Bye-bye.